I don't waste my breath. I think that until black people start to do those things and stop waiting around for white people to tell our stories, or stop trying to inject ourselves into their tales, like Finn,
Well,
Finn from Star Wars.
they,
Yeah,
well, as a,
Bullshit.
well,
Bullshit.
I can speak on that as a filmmaker. It's hard for, I mean, a lot of companies, a lot of studios will not, production houses. I mean, the whole industry has changed. That's the reason why you see the writers of,
yeah,
friends of mine are
yeah.
striking right now, because the money, and the way everything has changed. The whole structure, the how business has been done in the industry has changed. They will not fund, like I've produced scripts that they've sat with me and spoke to me and they humored me, but they won't put money behind it because they felt like there's not an audience for it. Even though
Hmm.
the black audience, we are huge. So that's the reason why they'll do the tempo, like like the Peter Pan, and they're introduced to make black characters into white,
I see
basically
what you're saying.
hand me downs.
Yeah,
Is
or like the
the
Black Captain
clothes that my
America.
brother used to wear.
Yeah,
I'm now wearing, and the fight and was the struggle right now that myself and other filmmakers that I know across the country have to try to tell our stories. It's really hard to get the money, the resources to adequately tell those stories. They'll give us peanuts, and the movie will be out there, and they'll use us as the test sample,
mm,
to make a bad version of it to see how well it does. And if it does really well or does pretty well, then they'll get a white director and do their version of it.
I see what you're saying.
Um,
Yeah.
that's the strategy that we've noticed that's been going on. So
Well, let me ask you this:
it's
like,
blind.
if like black people, we make up, was it 14%, around that percentage of the population, right, in the United States. Now, granted, when you start talking about the global market, I'm pretty sure, when you talk about black people in general, maybe Africa maybe increases that percentage, but there's still some challenges in Africa as far as infrastructure. So I don't think the box office coming out of Africa is going to be, say, as big as something like China, right? Even though the African population is probably one of the youngest on the earth, and they're growing. But I guess the question I want to ask is, and I think it's a fair question, because we have to start realizing, look, we're a minority in this country, and it's not like our numbers are going to increase. In fact, our numbers are decreasing. So to your point about when they show like this mixed race woman as Cleopatra, or they got a brown skinned person playing Peter Pan, um, admixture is becoming more and more of a normal thing. In fact, this is just my opinion, but I think what we know as today as black, we're going to become like the Native Americans. There's not going to be that many of like what we would consider black people. I think black people are going to morph into people of color and kind of like mixed race people. And there's a number of
Well,
reasons. I won't go into all of them, but yeah, go
gotta
ahead.
make it. Well, when you say black people, are you talking about African Americans, or are you talking about Africans in the diaspora?
African
Because
Americans, African Americans, not necessarily.
okay, because we're
Yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah,
Because
because
if you're talking, because like here in Charleston, we have a huge Nigerian population,
mm,
and I mean, yeah. To your point, yeah. There's money to be had, and when it comes to black films and black stories, I mean, there's some film houses in Nigeria that are doing that, broker some deals or have deals with Netflix. So if you go to Netflix, you'll see a whole bunch of Nigerian films, Nollywood films out there, on that platform. Um, you see a lot of
but to
Indian
be
films
fair
like
though,
RRR. It's huge. I mean, that's an Indian film, but
but that
I
kind of
mean,
you're kind of proving my point though, because when you look at India, yeah, a billion people. You look at Nigeria, they got a growing population. When you look at African Americans, we're dying. Like our community is dying. So it's almost like, like look at the what was that one thing they did with the Woman King?
Are we talking population or are we talking about stories? The stories.
What I'm saying
If you're
is,
talking about
okay, what I'm saying is that if the population needs to be there to pay for it, it's kind of like a boxing match, right? If you're even if you're a good boxer, if you have but you don't have a name, like then you can't bring in the audience. You see what I'm saying? Is what I'm saying. But we're on a decline. I don't. The point. I guess the larger point I'm trying to make is we don't have the community unity to push for that anymore. At one time we did. And matter of fact, there's some evidence, right, that we saved Hollywood with the black exploitation movies back in the '70s when these studios and stuff were about to die.
yeah,
Because we were forced together in these cities. Now they're spreading us all out through gentrification. Then you got the whole assimilation thing, and I think it's gonna be harder as we go further in the future, unless there's some resurgence in African American culture and we start making families again. We're on a decline. Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
well, I see what you're saying, but I kind of disagree. Well, I don't. I mean, I'm thinking that what the point I'm making is that I see what you're saying. I feel that black stories are universal stories, and I'm not. I I make black stories, but I don't think I just make them just for black folks. I make them for everyone. I want everyone to appreciate our story,
Mm.
and yeah. But if you speaking about like resources, trying to get economics to get research, to get funding for a project from Black folks, and you talking about our numbers being dwindling in that aspect, then yeah, I kind of see what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah, because
agree.
imagine you're Kathleen. No, not Kathleen Kennedy, because she's inept and incompetent. Well, imagine you're a competent, president of Lucasfilm or some studio head or whatever, right? And you're seeing all the pushback, to on wokeism. You know what I'm saying? And some of it I think is justified. Some of it I think is ridiculous. It's just some of it I think is rooted in racism, but some of it I think is justified, right? You're seeing the pushback on it, right? You're seeing the numbers for something like the Woman King. And the only thing you really have a metric on is maybe the Black Panther movie that came out. Perhaps the second one. I don't think the second one did as well as the first one, but even perhaps the second one. You know, if I were them, I would also focus on something like Africa or India rather than African Americans because it's a dead community. It's dying.
It's money.
Yeah, it's money. They want the cash, so they're
They're
going to go
business
where the
people.
audience is. Yeah, and I think and I said this on Twitter today. I was like, African Americans have done a terrible job with gatekeeping our history and our legacy. We've done a terrible job, and I think we're seeing that play out in modernity, in modern
Yep.
times, and it's going to be
Yep.
harder and harder to sell. Like, who was it? Was it one of the Tate brothers? They were talking about what's his name? What's his name? Robert Smalls. The
Robert
the
Smalls, yeah.
yeah. They were like, why don't they make a movie of this guy? He was incredible. He's like a real, legitimate, real
Well,
life hero. And I think that's
well,
why. I think that's why. Yeah.
well, I was speaking, I was speaking to Michael Moore, Michael, not that Michael Moore,
I know
get
you're
fair,
talking.
not
Yeah.
9/11, the one
Yeah.
with the International African American Museum,
Mm.
because he's a descendant, and he asked me, he said, Travis, do you know who Charles Burnett is? I said, yeah, of course I know who Charles Burnett, Killer of Sheep and stuff, and To Sleep with Anger, one of my favorite films. But he was like, yeah, because he's supposed to be making a movie about because he's a descendant from Robert Smalls.
Hmm.
So I I know Charles Burnett was supposed to be making the movie on him, on Robert Smalls. Hopefully, it'll come to fruition. I also know that Michael is trying to do it himself too,
Yeah.
because he's also running for Congress,
Mm.
which is another
And
side of it.
and another
But
point, Travis. Another thing I think that illustrates what I'm talking about more is look at who they're casting now in African American roles. Right? They're casting Africans in African Brits and stuff like that. They had that African Brit lady playing Harriet Tubman.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah. Go ahead.
well, and the reason, yeah, that whole argument with, which is true, they are taking a lot of jobs
Because we don't
from.
safeguard, we don't gatekeep our history, and I see this even with African American actors, right? Like that. What's that guy who's in trouble now? Even though I don't think he did anything. Kang. What's
What
his
dude
name?
from yeah.
He has a cool
Jonathan
sounding name. Yeah,
Major.
Jonathan Majors, right? I'm watching now. Now I've heard good things about him, but everything I've seen him in, I'm just not impressed. I'm not impressed. Where's this
Uh,
generation's Denzel Washington? Where's this generation's
I mean, I thought he did a great
Lawrence
job.
Fishburne? He's mediocre. Let's be honest. This guy's mediocre.
Yeah, I mean, he still needs growth. I mean, did you see the Last Man in San Francisco?
No, I haven't seen it. Now, Uncle
Yeah,
Dave
yeah,
did
I
say he
think he
did
did.
good in Creed too. So it's just every time I've
Yeah,
seen him in something, I've
and-
only seen him in maybe like three things. I'm just not impressed. I'm not. I'm not impressed.
yeah.
I think we've lost. We don't hand down our what we created. Who was studying under Denzel Washington? Who's studying under Lawrence Fishburne?
Well,
These
Questions, they
his
will
son.
they
greats.
I
take
mean, his
apprentices?
You
That's
son.
know.
the first question you need to ask.
Go ahead, Caleb. Since you haven't said
Are they
anything,
willing to take apprentices? Is that that's the first question you need to ask?
I don't know. That's a good question though.
Exactly. If they're not willing to train nobody, then nobody's about to get
But
trained.
that's an
Like,
institutional question too, though. That's an institutional. Where are the black institutions to do that? Now there might be some. I don't know. I don't know. And if they are, is Denzel Washington or Lawrence Fishburne or what's his name? Dang, James Earl Jones or Morgan Freeman. Are they a part of these institutions, these black institutions? To to to,
No,
yeah, So it's
no.
a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
But
Travis.
they're actors. They're not. They're not. I mean, they're actors. They produce sometimes. Due to a project. But that's up to directors.
Hmm.
That's solely up to directors to preserve that and to curate that what you're talking about.
Hmm.
And we're trying to do that. Right now it's. I mean, I appreciate. I don't know. Right now I'm a little torn with the. I agree with you that there's no solidarity. I mean, when it comes to black, because right now everything is about everyone else
Hmm.
except for black liberation and black ownership. Our black stories for the most part, and everything is about the Afro. Um, what do you call it? The Afro surrealism
Hmm.
style
Like
that
like Atlanta,
like
like
when you watch.
Atlanta.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, which I appreciate.
Hmm.
I think which I loved Atlanta. I thought it was phenomenal. I think a great show. I just think the last episode just left. I didn't understand what they were trying to say.
Hmm.
With that, and but I don't know. It's just like they're the younger crowd like the Ava DuVernays and um
Oh God.
what's his name?
Ava DuVernay.
Uh, yeah, yeah. She
I
was
mean, there,
supposed to be my publicist.
oh, for real. There's
Yeah.
look. I just know I've noticed a decline, not just in the music, but also in I think in African American cinema. And it might be right. Maybe they're just not funding the right type of people. I think you're probably right about that, Travis. But also, I think they're not. I don't think it's just a racism. I think it's a money thing. If your community's in decline, they're not going to put a whole bunch of money behind something. To
Yeah, that might fail.
Yeah, yeah, because there's just not enough eyes that's going to go see. I don't know any white people that went to go see uh Woman King. I didn't go see Woman King. But
No,
but
no,
to
a
be
lot
fair,
of
that
people.
might
I
have been the
didn't. I
wrong
didn't
type of
go
movie
see
to
that.
push.
Yeah, but again. That was not black. That was not black people. That was not a black producer. The person who wrote it was. I mean, well, later on, it was a black co-writer, but that was a white project.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
If you get a chance, a friend of mine, did you see Dear Mama on Hulu?
Dear Mama, is that the Tupac thing?
I heard
Yeah,
about it.
Um,
yeah.
no, I haven't seen it, but to be fair, maybe I'm being hypocritical here. It's not my interest.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you would. I think you would appreciate it. I think you really would appreciate it because um,
Is
it's
it a documentary?
well, it is a documentary,
Okay.
and it's told by the. It's more about Fani Shakur, a friend of mine, Jamal Joseph. He was. I brought. I had him do a video chat about when what was it? That movie about the Black Panther and the traitor.
Oh,
Mm,
I know you're talking about.
something
Yeah,
in the snitch or something.
Yeah, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I had him speak a couple of years back, and I worked with but he's an executive producer on this project,
Oh,
and
okay.
he was part of the Black Panther 21.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
as myself being a child of of the Panther movement, I think what you're speaking of, the decline and trying to curate and stuff like that. I think this is a really good effort, and to see how a young Tupac, because he got all the lessons I got, and his mom was part of the was a high up official in the
Hmm.
movement, but he just lost himself.
Yeah, it's
He's kind
interesting though. When you look at footage of
but
Tupac.
he
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
what
Continue your thought.
no, no. My point being is that everything you're speaking of, he's like an archetype of how that solidarity and how Black people would stick together, and how we no longer sticking together because their relationship was shown, which is just shown in this documentary, basically illustrates what you're speaking of.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm. Okay. I'm gonna check
coming
it
from the
out.
movement,
Yeah.
everyone sticking together, and then a disconnect. Well, his mom started because the movement just disbanded, and FBI and the COINTELPRO and stuff like that. And no one was supporting one another. Um, Luckily, I was cool. My mom didn't do drugs, or my dad was in the movement.
Yeah.
But but like I said, I mean, everything you're speaking of, I think that documentary really illustrates the point you're trying to make, and how we can, I mean, learn from these lessons.
I think it's over,
Because
dude. I think it's over. I, I do. I think there's too much working against us. There's too much working against us, and I think after integration, I'm not saying integration was bad or good. It's just what it was. It was a solution they tried to fix the issue, but I think integration killed the black community. It's given us too much freedom to the point where H. Rap Brown said it perfectly in one of his speeches. He was like, there, if the black community is going to survive, we have to kill this idea of individualism. He was like, you can't say, because back then they had that saying, "I'm gonna do my thing, you're gonna do your thing." He was like, we can't do that no more, and that's what every, all black people do that. We're only black when, when some tragedy happens, like George Floyd gets gets killed, or when it's time to vote for freaking Democrats. That's the only time we're black. When it's time to do real stuff, like how you trying to make a movie. I bet if you try to get 100 black people together to give you $1,000, and if I had $1,000, I don't got. I don't got it. But if I had it, I would give it to you.
Me neither.
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed. You'd be hard pressed because and
yeah,
it's not just the fact that I don't think black people want to help out other black people. One, all black people don't got that kind of money. That's
yeah, they
and
don't
then
have to.
yeah, yeah.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I remember back in '95, I was
Yeah.
supposed, I met with, you know, with Chris Rock's brother, not Chris Rock, Chris Tucker's brother, and because I was going to try to get get this film that I was working on at the time made, and I approached one black dentist because they're the ones who pretty much had that type of disposable income to be able to fund a film back in the
Mm,
'90s. I met with his brother, and his brother was like, "Yo, man, yeah, I think he'd be interested in being in the film." Met with him, he would be interested in doing the project. But anyway, to speak what you're saying, that the guy who was going to invest in the project fell through, so I
mm.
didn't have the money,
Yeah.
so I couldn't make
Yeah.
the project. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, that we don't, black folks don't have that type of disposable income, and we have to go with our hat in hand asking other people to fund these projects, and hope from the kindness of their heart, they're willing to give me the money, because like the project I'm working on right now, the budget's only 700,000,
Hmm.
um, less than $1 million to make,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
He said
um,
only.
Well, in the movie
I
world,
know,
that's not a lot of money.
I know.
Yeah, that's under a
That's still a
million.
lot of bread, dude.
Yeah, man, we
That's a
can
lot
do
of
a
bread for
lot of that. If
black
you get that
people.
money to us, we can do a
That,
lot
that's
more.
a
Yeah.
lot of bread because within black people, they might be 10, 15 people he know that would even give him something.
Hmm.
Every other black person is like, I don't even know him.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, like as a we believe in you, Travis, just like you believe in us, right? We know you're good
Yeah.
at what you do. You know we're good at you. We know that everybody out there, Travis is extremely talented and should never be doubted, right? And he knows the same about us. We do a lot of things, but people don't know who we are, and that makes us a risky investment. And Travis, you got a film, American Street, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have a
yeah.
completed film. People are
Yeah,
looking for something like, okay, if we brought a foreigner in, say a non-black, non-white foreigner, doesn't know anything but making money. The first thing he's going to ask is, okay, what's your history? How much money have you made in the past? He's going to look at you like a stock, right? And he'll be like, oh, well, how's this stock performing? Well, it hasn't performed yet. Then that's a
yeah,
high risk, whatever. Then he's gonna cut you a deal like, well, I want 90% of your earnings. And then we're like, hell no. Well, I'm 100% of the creative part of it. Why do you want 90% of earnings? Because you're high risk. Because you have not proven, you're proven that you're talented, but your product has not proven that it's stable and it will sell on the market. And that's what
yeah.
people are looking for.
You're right. Yeah,
I think
you're
that's kind of
absolutely
what
right.
Brian was saying as well. Now, if we came out with a, if we were the people who made Creed, for example, right, and then we made the second Creed, by the third Creed, even if it was just black people watching it and black people make it, by the third Creed, it would jump outside of our community, right? Solid projects, people like it, and black people go to see it not because they're black, because it's a good damn movie.
Yeah,
Then it would be able to get out. But we have to first, we as artists have to produce something within our own budgets. And then we have to be able to sell it to our own people. So when we go to outside of our community, we can say this will generate X amount in sales. Right?
yeah.
Here's the
I agree.
numbers. Here's the history. Orlando will tell you we've met different groups of people, and they're like, we love what you guys do. Let me see your 5 years of your 5 years of your last 5 years of financials. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're a
How
starter.
much have you earned in the last 5 years? Well,
yeah,
I have this. I've been trying to make this. That's why we decreased like the size of the projects to like albums and stuff like that, just so we could say, okay, we got 2 years of history and we have nothing but releases. Here's some comments. Here's some fans. These people, if you look at the 100 fans we have, we can guarantee you that 25 of them will give us $1. So then we tell that person, loan us $15, and we keep 10, and we pay you back and such and such, and so on. You get what I'm saying? But to come from nowhere, right, and say, I got the script, I got this album, I got this anime, I got this robot over here,
Hey, robot, him that
you know,
robot boy.
and
I got a
and
yeah.
drone.
and a drone
No,
or an idea, unless you create, it's the same. If we said we had an invention and we didn't have a working prototype, people kind of like, But if you
yeah.
said,
Well,
please go ahead.
no, you're absolutely right. The only thing I would say is that this conversation I had because I was working on a film last year. A friend of mine, her movie is called Bull Street. It should be, she has um, Loretta Devine and um, oh my God, I can't think of her name. Amy Madigan, who's married to I can't think of his name right now. But she was, she's been my friend Shatal. She's an actress, and she was saying, Travis, She said, "This is crazy," because I don't know if you would call it classically trained, but she's trained in film, and she said most of these studios are looking for YouTube. They're looking at how many followers you have on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and they're looking at those numbers. And she was asking me, she was like, Travis, do you think I should, do that? Because um, she's on a lot of movies. My friend Tall, you can see her on HBO Max, you can see her on Hulu, you can see her on Netflix. She's on a lot of film and a lot of projects, but and television and network television. But she was like, I don't know, Travis. This is crazy. I don't know what, but right now, just to echo what you're saying, yeah, they are looking not more so the money. They just want to see a proof of concept and to see the number of followers you have. If
Mhm.
you have a huge number of followers, that's going to they're going to factor that in, and they'll be more inclined to
Yep.
back and to fund whatever project you're doing.
Yeah, because they
So
put money
yeah,
behind
you're
that mumble rap. Dude come in and with his pants halfway down on backwards in a fake gold chain and a stupid dance, and they'll put $50,000 behind him in marketing and everything like that.
And the sad part about that, Uncle Dave, is that it'll sell. And see, that's and
Because they know it'll sell.
because
That's the
and
point.
that's why I say I think it's over. I think it's over. I think it's over. I think that we didn't. I'm sorry, we didn't safeguard. We didn't safeguard the best parts of our culture, and we let the most we let the lower aspects of our culture thrive. And to be fair, white people put money behind
I,
that, so that's part of the reason why too.
listen.
You know.
I would agree with you if I would agree with I agree with you to a point, meaning that if we had a finite set of ideas. But the great thing about being African Americans, we always I mean, innovate ourselves, even though I'm not a big fan of mumble rap and stuff like that, but it's popular with a lot of people across the world.
Hmm.
We keep on reinventing ourselves and coming out with something new. And I
Yeah,
just
but
think
new doesn't always mean
Yeah, but
better.
it's
there is
always
new
a
type of
level
people.
lower.
No, it's
that's
not always
new.
better.
We didn't
Let's
get
say
better
that's-
than James Brown. We
yeah,
got
that's not new.
worse. When,
I
when
mean,
we're looking
and,
at people in the
and,
60s and they're like, those black people are better than we are now. They're smarter.
they are.
They're more
You're
talented. They work harder. They were able to. They stayed married longer. They got married younger. They raised bigger families. They had, with all what they went through, right? I take a James Brown artist over anybody
I
today.
agree. I agree. I agree. The
And
quality control has lessened, and I think that's more so. I think that's more so that everything has been
We live in a faster
um
culture now.
I, no, yeah, we live in the internet.
That changes
We
things.
live in the social media, and everyone is a critic. I mean, everyone
Yeah.
can critique something. Before we had people who were more qualified to critique whether or not, and at that time we had things like A&R, people who were reps who would basically nurture. Like I'm a huge fan of Prince.
Mhm.
If Prince came out today, 9 times out of 10 they would boo him off the stage.
Did
They
he
wouldn't.
could do it
A
today? I'm
studio would
sorry.
not give that. Like when he signed with Warner Brothers, they would not give him. They
kind of
wouldn't give
deal,
him
yeah.
after this first album that didn't do well, even though it was phenomenal. He did all the music, did everything himself. But they wouldn't have funded the next project. I
Mhm.
mean, we don't nurture artists today like they did back in those days. And again, I agree with you in the quality control. We do need quality control. I just think that a lot of things being passed out as good and it's really not good. And just because it's new
Hold
doesn't
on, you're
mean it's
forgetting one
better.
thing too.
Yeah,
And I think,
no,
go
go
And
ahead.
ahead. Oh no, I was just gonna. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. Just because it's new doesn't mean it's better. And I also
It's not
think.
just quality control.
I'm
It's
sorry, go
like
ahead.
we live in like a faster society now, so people want stuff faster. That's wonder why
he
I
wants
feel like
the fast,
people
but I don't think that's a good
that's not necessarily a good thing,
excuse.
but that's kind of the reason why, like for example, like TikTok, like mom rap so popular. Mom rap, you could just say some random words and get it out way quicker and actually think it's lyrics. It's like And speed is a part of it too. And nowadays, that's a part of the game. How fast you get it out. I mean, it might not be good. If you release like 100 songs compared to someone who released one good song, I mean, you're just way more than algorithm compared to that person that
I
released
mean,
one good song.
that's a valid point. Yeah.
There's a catch in
Yeah.
there though, Caleb. And it's sad to say it, but you guys, every generation, you guys, you're not as refined. We aren't as either. Like for example, right? When we started producing music in the '90s, right? We're sampling the music off of vinyl records, right? MP3s, the quality, as far as the audio file was not there. It didn't have as much bass, treble, the volume, and all that. It did not sound as good as the record did, right? But then here comes the next generation. If I raise you on MP3s and you never hear a vinyl record, this becomes the new norm. Old people complain like me, but it's like when you see, man, I watched, what was it? Not the Tom Cruise one, but the what's the alien invasion movie with the three-fingered aliens and the
Oh,
War of the Worlds.
That was
I,
Tom Cruise.
War?
we had War of the Worlds,
That's
yeah.
Tom
I'm saying
Cruise.
not the Tom Cruise version. I
They
went
made
and
a
watched the
remake
one from the
of it.
'60s.
Oh, okay. I
But
got
the
you.
first
It is still on point. It is still the acting, the shots, the angles, the rule of thirds, and all the cuts and everything. It's still beautiful, and it will last. The Ten Commandments will last forever. The movie. You see what I'm saying? But to your point, Caleb, the fast stuff we're making now, this 50 years, this will disappear. In 200 years from now, nobody's going to look back at this
You
this
gotta remember, if you
time.
want to make money, you look on it right now. We're looking on an algorithm based system. It's not just talent based. Algorithms what's gonna make you money in the current system. Like this a point in time where talent it made you money. Now you gotta feed the algorithm, right? So it's about pump as much content as possible.
Yeah, but
Showing as many people as
that's
possible.
so risky,
people
and it
are-
only makes a little bit of money, and a lot of times it hurts. That's why we're talking about Disney. Let's make something fast and put everybody in it, and everybody will like it, whatever. And what happened? Now they're losing.
Speaking of which, let's move on to
No,
that.
but I
'Cause
was working for like the last 10
this is
years.
what
It's like
Uncle
it's
Dave wanted to
I can
talk
go back
about.
now, but it's like
Go ahead, Kate.
10 years is a big part of my generation. 10 years that makes a big difference. So it's like, yeah.
Lucent. Oh, Studio.